Good morning, Girl Scouts. My name is Megan. I'm with the Girl Scouts of Central Maryland, and today we're going to be doing our Junior Mechanical Engineering Balloon Car badge. So I'm going to give it just another quick moment as a couple of you trickle on. As you all pop in, let me know where you're watching from, what troop you're in, if you're from Maryland, if you're from somewhere else. We love to see where everybody's watching from. But with our Junior Mechanical Engineering Balloon Car activity today, you don't have to have exactly the same materials that I have to create the balloon car that I'm going to make. This badge is all about being creative and engineering with the materials that you have. I have gathered a lot of materials, and I'm going to show you what I've kind of gathered and possibilities that you can use. And for almost everything that I have on my table, I went and I scavenged through my recycling before I took my recycling out this weekend. And I also went through my craft supplies to see what kind of things that I might be able to use and create. And there are so many different options. I'm really excited to see as we go through this how many people make different cars and what sort of materials you found in your house and how you want to go ahead and make it work. The only thing that everybody is going to need for this activity is a straw of some sort and a balloon. I know in my house I don't have any like plastic bendy straws or anything like that, but I do have reusable straws and it'll work just the same. I'm not, defacing them at all, so if, I can use them for this project and either hang on to it and keep using it with this project, or I can take the straw out and still have my straws. So what we're going to do first is we are going to design the car that we're going to be making. So a balloon car, when you blow up a balloon, I'm going to show you right here. And just let it go, it's going to fly all over the place. Right? So with the balloon car, what we're going to do is we're going to take a balloon and we are going to try and harness that force of the wind coming out of the balloon into something that's going to be able to propel and act as an engine for our car. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to take one balloon and a straw, and I'm just going to kind of put the balloon just over the top of the straw. Once I do that, I'm going to take tape to kind of just wrap it around tight and very, very secure, because I'm going to want to be able to blow up my balloon. I'm going to make sure I want to have it tight around the neck, and I'm also going to go around kind of that little bumpy part of the balloon so that it is completely sealed and no air will be escaping through that side of my balloon. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead. As I have this going, I will be using hot glue for my car that I'm making, so I do have my hot glue gun plugged in and getting hot, just so it's ready for when I have that step. So if you plan on using hot glue, you don't have to use hot glue. You can use tape, other materials, it just depends. With what I'm doing, I think I'm going to want to use hot glue, so I have that kind of going and getting ready. Alright, so now I have my balloon nice and securely taped onto the top of my straw, but I didn't pinch my straw closed. So what I can do now is blow up my balloon using my straw. So when I do this, it's allowing that air to be more focused through the end of the straw, so that if I were to let this balloon go, instead of flying all over the place, it's going to kind of stay in one spot, or if it had room and wasn't running into things, it would kind of be propelling itself along the way. I will say one difficulty with not using a plastic straw is that these silicone straws are a little bit heavier, but it's still something that we can all work with and engineer and try and problem solve our way through. So now that we know, this is how we're going to propel our car. And I'm going to show you one that I made earlier, and I'm going to let you know right now, this car didn't work very well. It's too heavy and too bulky, and the force of the balloon could not push this car. So I'm going to show you the model that I made earlier. So I used a box as my base, and we're going to be looking at a couple different things. So our engine is what I'm going to call it, is going to be our balloon and our straw. We're going to need to create the body of our car, whether we're using a cardboard box or a couple other things. We're going to need to figure out what we're going to use for wheels and what we're going to do as like an axle holder. So the axle holder is going to be the thing that our wheels are sitting in so they're not stuck and not moving. We want our wheels to be able to roll. So what I'm going to do now before I start building is I'm going to get a piece of paper and I'm going to make a design and draw out what I want my car to look like. Your designs and what you do can be just the whole picture that you want to draw. You can do words and kind of write it out. It's whatever works best for you. What works best for me when I'm thinking about things like this is thinking about the pieces that I'm going to have. So my paper, I'm going to draw my engine, what I want my engine to look like. I'm going to design what I want the body of my car to look like. I'm going to design what I want my axles to be running through, and I'm also going to draw a prototype of what I want my wheels to look like. So with mine, my engine and everybody's engines are going to be just a straw. And again, your drawings don't have to be perfect. I am not going to claim that I'm the greatest artist in the world, with a balloon taped to the end. And when I make these, sometimes I will make labels for maybe where I want to put tape, just so that when I go to start building, I'm going to know exactly what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you. I drew my prototype right here of what the engine's going to look like. Again, if you are, sorry about that, somebody that likes to draw the whole car, you can draw the whole car and label your parts. So next we're going to look at the body of our car. So the body is that kind of just a big base that's going to be the chunkier part of our car. So I can show you with the one that I made earlier that I was testing and kind of working with. I used it with a cardboard box that has the side cut out of it. And as I was testing this, I realized that it wasn't working for what I've created here. So I'm going to look at other materials that I have and try and think about what I could use for the body of my car. I'm going to show you some examples that I have. You could use a water bottle. I have an empty vinegar bottle. I have a tin can that I could maybe try and use. I have an empty coffee container. I found some toilet paper tubes. I also have an empty plastic cup. And that's actually what I decided that I was going to use for my car, because a plastic cup is really light compared to my cardboard car. It's a lot heavier. So what I've decided to do, and I'm looking at my cup and I'm trying to think while looking at my cup, how can I create this into a car? Do I want it to be this big and tall, or do I want to maybe cut it in half? And I think my idea for my car is that I'm going to cut my cup in half so that it's lower to the ground and very lightweight. So what I'm gonna do now is for the body of my car, I'm gonna cut a cup in half. And I'm gonna draw what that looks like. And again, it does not have to be perfect. All right. And it does not have to be perfect. This is just for you all to kind of work with. As you guys are kind of designing your prototype, I'm really excited to hear what you're thinking about, what materials you might be trying to use. And I am going to say right now, it's okay that once you build your car, you realize that it didn't work. It's exactly what I did with my cardboard car. I already tried this once and I said, oh wow, that really didn't work. Let me engineer a new way to make this car work better. So with a cup that's cut in half, and I've already cut one in half, just so that I can show you. So this is how I want the base of my car to look. Went and cut it in half. So I then am looking at how do I attach my wheels to this cup. I was kind of trying to figure out what it might do. what kind of things that I might be able to use for my wheels. With my model over here, I tried a couple different things, and I think I figured out the way that I like it best, but I actually used 2 colored pencils and these kind of bobbin wheel type things that I have. You might not have something like this, and that's okay. There are some other things that you can use to make wheels. You can maybe do bottle caps. I didn't have enough bottle caps, but if you have enough bottle caps to do that, you could do bottle caps. As they roll away, you could do cut out cardboard circles and create wheels of the materials that you have. You could use, maybe if you have some old CDs, you could try some old CDs, maybe caps to other sorts of things that might be a little bit bigger, but we want to try and keep our wheels roughly the same size, or maybe, you know, both of our front ones are one size and both of our backs are another size. I think another thing that I could try, you know, our toilet paper tube or a paper towel tube is round. I could cut out circles and maybe try and make wheels out of these rounds right here. But what I'm going to do with mine is I'm going to be using these kind of bobbin type things, and as I was exploring with these, realized that they fit exactly perfectly around a pencil. So this is what I'm going to be using for my wheels. And when we think about this, I'm going to glue them together so that they're nice and tight, but I want to be thinking about how can these roll while they're attached to my cup. Well, as I was saying before, I don't have any straws. A straw would be a really easy thing that you can use to make an axle. So if you are putting your wheels onto maybe a wooden dowel, you can slide that inside of a straw and it'll make it so that it's really nice and easy for it to roll and move. But this is really big compared to my little cup, and I don't want to go and break apart and cut my reusable straws that I have. So as I'm thinking, what can I do to make that work? And I was thinking about paper straws. You can buy paper straws online, but I don't need my straw to be able to drink out of. So what I can do is I can make my own paper straw by kind of rolling up a piece of paper around the pencil so that it's the right width and it's exactly perfect for my car. So with this, I've kind of talked about how I'm going to do my axles. I'm going to do a rolled up piece of paper, and I'm going to write that down as well. Rolled paper. And for my wheels, I'm going to use my little bobbins on a pencil. And I'm going to label that. And then these little bobbins, and I'm going to do that ×2 because we want wheels for the front and the back. And again, you can do a variety of different things. You can use any materials that you have. These are just the materials that I'm choosing to try for my balloon car. So I have my entire plan kind of mapped out, and I already have my straw attached to my balloon. So my engine step is already done. So as I'm going through this, I can go ahead and check this step off. I do this just so that I know what I'm working through and what I have left to do. And it's also really great to have your paper written out like this so that if you are going to make changes, you can kind of see what you already did, and maybe if I want to make changes later on, I can choose a different color to write in so that I can maybe see what my step 2 is and how I'm going to adapt things to change them a little bit better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our body of our car together. So whatever you're using, you're going to go ahead and kind of get this ready and set. If you're going to use something that's a bottle, you might not need to do too much tweaking with it. You might be ready and set for it to go on to the next step. You might need to do a couple things, but as I showed you on my car right here, we need to think about how we're going to, and as you're getting the body of your car together, you want to think about how is your engine and your balloon going to attach to this? Is it going to sit just right on top? What is the force coming out of the straw going to do if it's just coming out off the top. If it's not hitting something and pushing off of something, there might not be enough force to make it move. So what I did for this one is I cut out a little circle right here, the right size of my straw, so that I can feed my straw through and pull it down so that my straw eventually comes out and is pointing down towards the ground. So that as the balloon is pushing out that air, it has something to kind of push it up against so that it has something to start it moving. So with my cup, what I'm looking at is, how am I going to do that? How am I going to attach this? Do I want it to go down here? I don't know about if I really like how that is, because the balloon might get a little heavy and kind of fall onto the ground. So I'm gonna try the same thing with this, is I'm gonna try and cut out a tiny little hole at the top of my cup. So as you guys are getting your base together, I want you to be thinking about how your engine is going to attach to the body of your car. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out a kind of square or a circle a little bit bigger than the straw that I have, so that I can feed that through and have somewhere for my engine to attach to the body of my car. So for the body of your car, some other things that you can use, I had an Amazon box that I used for this one. Another idea that I had is I might try a lighter box. I have a macaroni box. That could be something that you could try. If you have an empty like orange juice carton or milk carton or juice carton, that's something. Get creative with it and really just try and figure out what you think would be best with the resources that you have. So I went and I cut out a hole that it'll be ready for our engine once we get to putting everything together. So now what we're going to do, now that I have the body of my car ready, if yours isn't ready yet, that's all right. Just keep on going. I'm going to show you the steps that I'm doing to get all of my individual pieces ready, and then I'll show you how I connect everything together. So what I had said is, for my axles, to kind of hold my wheels in place, I wanted to use something that was like a straw, but I don't have a straw that I could use. So I was thinking about paper straws, and I was like, I can create my own kind of paper straw. I don't need it to be very long, so I'm gonna cut my piece of paper in half so that it's about the width of my car. So when I fold my paper in half, I want it to be just a little bit wider than my car. So when you see, it's a little bit wider. Some other alternatives other than paper that you can use as you're going through this and as you think about it, you can take a tiny little piece of cardboard and you can kind of bend it and then tape it down to something so that it will then make a wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that option just on some scraps that I have, and I'm going to show you how I would create that type of a axle area. So what I would do is kind of just bend my cardboard a little bit so that I've created a gap, almost like a little, kind of a little tunnel through there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape and I can simply just tape that so that we have our space kind of ready. And I'll show you how we can then insert a wooden dowel or a pencil or whatever we're choosing to use for our wheels. So this is one option. It's not the option that I'm doing, but it doesn't mean it's not the option that might be best for your car. Every single car that we're going to create today is going to be unique and have its own kind of good things and bad things about it, and then we're going to try and figure out how to make it better. So with this, you can see straight through it, and if I were to use a pencil, I can do that and my pencil would still be able to spin within that. So that's one option. I'm going to go back to showing you how I'm going to make the paper straws that I'll be using for my car that I have designed. Alright, so now I have two pieces of paper cut that I'm going to use And I'm going to take the pencils that I chose, that I found for my wheels, and I'm just going to simply wrap it around just so that the pencil can still move within it. I don't want it to be so tight that the pencil is stuck. And I'm just going to wrap it around until the entire paper is wrapped around this, and it's going to make a really sturdy paper straw. And once you get enough, you can pull your pencil out. Alright, and then just taping it shut so it's nice and secure. And I'm going to go ahead and do this twice so you can see straight through there. And eventually I'm going to then attach these across for my car. So I'm going to go ahead and make the next one. This is a really fun activity that if you have siblings at home or somebody else that has some time to make the car with you, you can, maybe with your parents or your grandparents or whoever is at home with you, you can each make your own car, and each of you try and make it different so that you can see different ways for it to work, because you might learn something from something that somebody else has made. And then you can also race them to see who's made the most effective car, and then see how you can change them to adapt everything to be the best balloon car that they can be. All right. So I now have my two axles together. I'm going to go ahead back on my paper. I've already cut my body into the shape that I want it to be, and I have my axles ready. So what I'm gonna do now, before I get my wheels put together, I'm actually going to take a pause, and I'm going to attach my axle holders to my car. You can use tape, you can use glue. If you have clay, you can use clay to kind of help mold things together. I am going to use hot glue, so I'm going to hot glue this together. If you're using hot glue, just be careful not to burn your fingers. If you need someone to help you, so that you can hold it and not drop everything, ask for help. But you can also use tape. Any type of tape will work. This is, again, this is your project to be what you'd like for it to be. I don't expect anybody's cars to look exactly the same as mine, and I would not expect anybody's to have the exact same cars, because everybody has their own unique ideas, and we all have our own different materials that we might have found around our house. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuck down with hot glue. And again, if you actually have straws and you have whatever you want to attach your wheels to fit through your straws at home, that's a really easy thing to do, and you don't have to then make your axles. So, alright. So I'll let that dry. And so you can see I have one of them set on there, and I'm going to do the next one along the back. As I'm doing this, I'm trying to make sure that they are exactly perpendicular across my cup, so that when my car is running, it's not going to be going kind of crooked or kind of wonky. The straighter the wheels are, and the more parallel the two sets of wheels are, and the more perpendicular kind of across your cup or your base, the straighter that your car is going to roll. So now that that's cooled off, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm using just the lines that are already on the cup to help me determine where I want these wheels to go. And getting that all hot glued on. it's nice and secure. We don't want to be losing our wheels as we drive. All right, so I'm just gonna let these dry. And again, if you're, a little bit behind or at a different step building than me, that's okay. Everybody builds in their own time, and depending on the materials that we use, some cars might take a little bit longer than others. So just take your time. Don't need to rush to try and keep up with what I'm doing. Or if you're waiting for me, that's awesome, and we'll get going on our next steps and keep moving through this. But the biggest thing about creating projects like this is to take your time and to be thoughtful about how you're creating this so that you can create an effective car. And once we start to race it, we might try and change different things about it to make it even better. Because when scientists and engineers are making things, typically their first draft, as you guys saw, my first draft was this car with the box. Usually the first draft is never what the final product turns to be. Usually there's a lot of different models and a lot of different things get changed and tweaked over time to continue to try and make things better. All right, so now that these are dry, I'm going to then make sure that I know where to place my wheels on my my pencil. So again, as I learned that a colored pencil is the exact same width as these bobbins that I have. Maybe in your house you might have some wooden bobbins, or we also talked about how you could try making a car with cardboard wheels out of bottle caps. Maybe you could try CDs or DVDs, or if you have multiple different types of lids of the same size, you can try and use those. It's up to you to get creative with it to try and figure out what will work best for your car. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and slide my pencils through, and I'm going to try and figure out where I want my bobbins to kind of land, because I don't want to accidentally glue it maybe too far down so that then my pencil doesn't have enough room to come out on the other side. So if I glue it like this, there's no room to glue anything on that side. So I'm going to put my straw or my pencil through those paper straws, and I'm simply just going to take a little marker on each side to show me where I want that bobbin to kind of end. So as I pull it out, I made just a tiny little mark on it, and when I go and put glue in here, I'm going to make sure that I don't push my bobbin down past that marker mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm not putting both wheels on, because if I put both wheels on, then I can't get it through my axle. So I'm just going to put one wheel on to start, and with my process, I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue, and as I said, I'm going to push my bobbin down to that mark that I made, and I'm going to let it dry. All right, and if I were to put my other wheel on right now, I wouldn't then be able to put it through my paper straws up here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to slide that down on. And something that I learned when I was making my first car is that my wheels were wobbly. They were moving all sorts of different ways, and I'm going to show you, I even tried a couple different things before I decided to completely scrap this car. I tried to adapt this in a couple different ways. So I can show you that I tried on one wheel well, I tried adding some hot glue to kind of keep it from wobbling too much, but hot glue kind of grips onto things. So I kind of realized that as it was rolling, that hot glue was getting in the way. So another thing that I tried, which worked a little bit better on the other side, is I tried just putting hair ties that I had on it to kind of keep that in place. It still wasn't perfect, but it worked a little bit better than the hot glue worked. So once I did that, I learned that I want my wheels to be as close to the base of my car as possible with the design that I've created. So another thing that you could use to kind of buffer that space is maybe if you have a sponge in your kitchen that you want to cut up and kind of use to cushion things, that might work. Get creative with it to try and figure it out. So as I showed you, I only put one wheel on right now so that I can slide that through. And on the other side, I'm going to grab another wheel, put just a little bit of hot glue in that wheel. Doesn't take a whole lot for these to stay on. And I'm gonna just slide it down so that it might wiggle a little bit in between, but it's not going all crazy like the other one. So there's enough room for my wheels to spin. And if I were to put it on the ground, they're going to roll very nice and smooth. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side of my car to get all of my wheels going, and then we can kind of see how it's going to roll. So I'm gonna go ahead, do the exact same, figure out where I want my wheels to stop. And if you were to make an axle like this, like you did with the cardboard, you could put your wheels completely together first, because then after that, what you could do is form the straw kind of part around the wheels that you've created. So you can then kind of attach that down so that they are able to spin. If you're gonna use a wheel well like this. So then they're free to roll. Show you back here so you can see. So those are free to roll. It's a little wobbly because I have it all just sitting on a piece of cardboard, but that's an alternative that you can try and use. So I'm gonna take my hot glue, a little bit in there, and push that down only to the marker that I made, because I don't want it to be too small for the paper straws that I've created. All right, and I'm gonna do the same on the other side. And get that nice and set on there. So now that I've done that, I now have the base and my wheels, and we can see that they roll pretty nice, you know, they're pretty good and they're moving. So I can see that it's able to do what I'd like it to do even without attaching my engine or my balloon to propel my straw together, or my balloon car. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to then attach my engine piece to my car. So some of you might have decided to attach yours differently than I did. You might have decided that you want it to be going straight through. You might have it sitting a little closer to the back. It's whatever you think might work best for your balloon car. So I cut out a little hole, kind of the front, middle kind of side of my car, not completely up at the front, but kind of at the top, closer to the front for my car. What I'm gonna do now is I'm going to just use tape to secure my straw in place. As I did this, what I learned with my box car is that it was a little bit too heavy, and I needed my straw to be kind of almost facing towards the ground a little bit to give my car that push to kind of help it move. So as I tape my straw down with what I've learned, I'm going to try and aid my straw in kind of bending towards the very front, towards the ground. I also want to make sure that however I place my straw, I still have enough room that I can then blow it up. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and attach mine so that it is nice and secure. We don't want our straw to be wiggling around because that's going to take away from some of the force that we would want it to use to move our car. So, fine. All set the way that I wanted it. Alright, so now that I have my car together, we're going to go ahead and see how it works. And again, the first time that you run your car, it might not work the way that you want it to, and that means you're just going to have to go back to the prototype that you drew and looking at what you did. Maybe did you do something a little different than how you drew it, and you might want to go and try and tweak it and change it. Is maybe your straw too long and you need to adjust how your straw is moving throughout your thing? Is the balloon getting in the way? There's different things that you might realize as you go through, and we're going to go ahead. I'm going to get some space right here for my car to go. Alright, so now that I've given myself some space, you can also do this on the ground, but I'm just going to keep us up here at the table. And if you're doing this with multiple people in your family, you can try and have a race with it to see who can engineer the most effective car. But we're going to go ahead and give it a try. So I'm just going to blow it up with the little end of the straw that I left sticking at the back. I can also just pinch the straw anywhere on here to, take a breath. If you need to take a couple breaths, I know not everybody is really good at blowing up balloons on the first try, but just take your time and try and blow it up. All right, and so then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this down and I'm going to give it a little push. My balloon's a little big, so what I'm seeing right now is my car is trying to move. Like if I were to give it a little push, the air is hitting the ground, but I think what's getting in the way is this straw is getting a little heavy. So I might now want to go and change that piece of everything a little bit. So what I'm gonna do right now to try for this is I'm going to just pull this off so we can see the difference, but I can go in and I can work with my straw. So I thought it might be a little bit too long of a straw that I'm working with. So what I can try is I'm just going to try this with a different straw and a different balloon to show you different ones. I'm going to try making that so that I have a shorter space. So there's a lot of space in the balloon that you can kind of slide your straw through. The last time I kind of only had it at the neck of the balloon, but I can still have a lot more space to work with to attempt to make my straw a little bit shorter without having to cut a straw. If you have straws that you can cut, that's a really easy fix to do. But again, I don't have a straw that I can cut, so I'm going to try and adapt with the resources that I have. And then just keep working with it until I have the perfect balloon car. It might take a couple different tries for you to adapt and create your car to be the exact perfect car that you want it to be. That's okay. Take your time and just keep working with it until you have created your perfect balloon car. But the number one thing is to always go back and adapt to try and make it better. Engineers are always trying to make what they've created better. It takes a lot for them to kind of figure out that what they've done is perfect and that's exactly how they want it. So now that I've done that, you can see that my straw now seems shorter, even though it's the same length, but it's sitting up in my balloon. So when I go through now and add it to my car, it's not going to be standing up as much. So then I have a lot more of my balloon sitting right here, and that's going to control where my balloon is going to flop once I blow it up. So I'm going to go ahead and re-tape and secure this down. Might need a little extra tape. And I'm going to try this again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep working at this until I am completely happy with the results that I'm getting with my car. or it's getting to be as close as I want it to be. And if you don't have the materials that maybe you might want to make it better, you can just kind of take notes and write down what you might like it to be. So I might want to try at a future time, once I have the ability to do so, I might want to try this with a plastic bendy straw to see how that might change it. Maybe the material of my straw might be making the force of my balloon blowing out the air might change that. I don't know. I don't have another straw to try that with, so that's something that I might try in the future, and I might make notes to try that in the future. But the important thing is to always to be figuring out how to better what you've made. So I've gone through and I've attached this, and now we can see that my balloon is a little bit closer to the base of my car. And we're going to try this again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try it, and it's still not moving, and it's looking like my front wheels are kind of not moving the way that I want it to. So I'm going to keep adapting with this, and I want you girls to keep adapting with the cars that you have to create your balloon car, and I can't wait to see what you guys have created. Make sure you let us see what you're working on and enjoy creating, and we'll see you all next time.